Welcome back. We'll go to our correspondent Emmanuel Iwei from Rivers State. Let him tell us what's happening there. Hello, Emmanuel.
All eyes on the 11th of April as the two major contenders re-strategize to win the governorship polls. It appears the APC in the state is on a high given the victory of its presidential candidate, President-elect General Muhammadu Buhari, and the party is looking to ride on the back of that ahead of the governorship polls. Now, the feeling you get when you interact with many of the supporters is that of renewed confidence and, of course, an air of hope. But the PDP in the state says if the APC thinks the presidential victory has put paid on the governorship polls in the state, then it has another thing coming. According to the party, their supporters are ever so determined to take over Government House come the 29th of May. What people, however, want to see is a noble contest. They want to see a contest that is void of intimidation, harassment, and killing of perceived opponents. The police in the state is currently investigating at least 14 persons involved in over 22 electoral crimes, ranging from electoral violence to snatching of ballot boxes and other related electoral offenses. And these are the kind of reports we hope not to see come the 11th of April.
Our correspondent Emmanuel Iwei in Rivers State, he put that report together earlier in the day about the preparations for the April 11 elections. But let's hear from the PDP governorship candidate in Lagos State what he has to say about the recently concluded elections. Jimmy Baji.
The last elections, we still had quite a bit of hitches. So to that extent, one is looking for that the next elections will have improvements, and improvement in terms of disenfranchisement, because you did have quite a number of polling units that the electorate, was not allowed to vote. In other words, you had polling units that materials never got to. You still have situations where ballot papers were not sent to some polling units in the required number. So you still had a bit of that I think we need to work on. That's very important. It's important also that we try to get the timing right, that everybody's voting at the same time, because in that way you prevent multiple voting. Of course, we need to clear whether we're going to use card readers or we're not going to use card readers.
PDP's governorship candidate for Lagos State. Okay, Mr. Janaku, let's hear a reaction to that, what he said about the last election. What do you think?
Well, just like he said, a lot of problems were and there in the last election, which are also hopefully that will be corrected in the governorship election that are coming up on next Saturday. Let me also say this very quickly that we're also aware that in Lagos State, for example, a week before the election, you saw quite a number of government led by the OPC and a proportion of PDP supporters terrorizing Lagosians in the state. So there are a lot of fear that were being stored in the minds of many people in this state before that general election. Perhaps that was one of the reasons why we discovered that for the first time in the history of this state, you have less than 2 million people voting in the state, which has a registered number of 4.2 million people, in which 3.2 million people collected PPC. I can assure you, with the peace that have prevailed over the land, after the presidential election, you will see a massive turnout of voters in Lagos State.
Was it the OPC's movement in Lagos that caused the card readers not to work? Because he talked about card readers and the logistic issues that they're hoping to be corrected for the next elections.
We also record that the chief press secretary to the chairman of INEC, Tayo Jiga, was on air. And he told this nation and the whole world that where card reader did not work was less than 1% in the entire country. Less than 1%. He told the whole world. So if it's 1% out of order, so what is the huge and cry about it? And let me also tell you, don't also forget that this is the first time that this card reader is being used. And definitely, INEC must have learned one or two lessons in the last 2 weeks, which hopefully they will correct before the governorship election on Saturday.
All right, thank you, Mr. General. Let's now hook up with Mr. Ben Onyeche, a member of the People's Democratic Party. I understand he's phoning in from Imo State over here. Hello, Mr. Onyeche. Mr. Onyeche, thank you for joining us on Nigeria 2015 tonight.
Hello, how are you doing?
We're very well, thank you. Have you been listening to our conversation about the promises made by the All Progressives Congress to in the area of security, job creation, and corruption? The question we want to ask is the PDP ready to be a viable opposition that will hold the APC accountable till the end of their administration?
Yes, Nyota, that's a good question. But first and foremost, PDP is the largest political party in the black world. It is the largest political party in the black world.
I hope you don't mind. Sorry, could you just turn down the volume of your TV set because I could hear it from here? Thank you. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, Nyota, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, like I was saying, this is the first time APC has contested an election as a political party.
Please go ahead.
And I can assure you that they are still not the majority party in Nigeria. Can you hear me now?
We're hearing you. Please go ahead.
Irrespective of the fact that the president has conceded defeat,
Mr. Onyeche, well, I don't know if you can hear me, but we'll have to call you back because I understand there's a distortion on the line. I can hear you clearly, but I understand there's a distortion, or maybe that's why you're pausing. Please, when you do come back, keep it real quick and straight to the point because we really do not have time. The question is, can the PDP be a viable opposition to the All Progressives Congress at the center? Mr. Naji. When Mr. Jimmy Agbadi talked about issues that have been recorded in the previous elections, you heard Mr. Janaku's reaction to the fact that it might, in Lagos for instance, low turnout might have been as a result of fear. People are afraid, having seen the OPC on the streets of Lagos and all that. Going into the next elections, what do you think would be?
Unfortunately, it's not necessarily. I don't think that is really the explanation for the low turnout. The low turnout is almost general. You cannot discount so much the fact of the card reader problem. Jega and his team may have said it was 0.002 or was it 0.025 or something like that. But that was as at the time they were talking about it. There were card readers deployed to the very remote rural areas where reports could not be instantaneous, you understand? So the INEC probably will not have been able to gather feedback from all the distortions or disruptions caused by this reader. And besides, I do not think it is good to take hook, line, and sinker statements made by INEC, in as much as that is the authority on the election. This body had given us April 14, I believe, was it March 14, as a date that they were prepared. It turned out, with hindsight, that INEC was certainly not prepared. Okay, so the insistence that once it is given by Jega, then that is gospel truth. I don't think that is necessarily the case.
All right, let's see. I understand Mr. Onyeche is back online. Hello, Mr. Onyeche, are you there?
yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes,
so the question we're asking was, can the PDP be a viable opposition strong enough to hold the APC and keep it on its toes in the course of this administration?
Yes, Nyota, you have to understand something. PDP is going into opposition by accident. by omission, not by commission. There were silly mistakes that were made internally. The first being that somebody like Femi Fani-Kayode was hired to be the media and publicity director of presidential campaign organization of President Goodluck Jonathan. Femi is not a journalist. Femi transferred his grievances and problems he had with APC into PDP. And he came up and messed up and had the media attention. And, so some of these problems arose from there. In politics, what you do is you project superior arguments to win the minds of your opponents, and not to abuse and derogate personalities. How can you win such an election? So these are some of the mistakes that were made. That was a fundamental error to have brought in Femi to be the media director of a presidential campaign.
So how would that affect you as an opposition party?
Yes.